Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I'm Paul Sisler, and this is In the Moment. This is a new segment to In the Moment. It's called Comedy and Controversy. And for this first segment, we are going to talk about George Carlin. And my guest, my host for this segment is none other than Jeremy Baker. Hello, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going, Paul?
Not too bad. Now, just to let everybody know, I don't know why I made this mistake. The tweet that I put out said Jeremy Walker, and I don't know why I put Walker. I don't know where the brain fart happened, but it's Jeremy Baker. Just so everybody knows, Jeremy Baker.
I'll tell you, like, I've been called a lot worse than that, so it's cool. Not a big deal.
Anyways, Jeremy Baker, aka Sergeant Nobody, author of Our Patriotic Nightmare. The book is available on paperback at Amazon and Barnes and Noble, ebook on all platforms. Make sure you check it out. But anyways, George Carlin. I like it that we're starting with George. How about you?
I think it's a good place to start, especially with the topics that we're going to be hitting. And I think stand-up comedy is the perfect way to approach a lot of topics in a positive manner.
Yes. I'm going to give a little history about George. He was born George Dennis Patrick Carlin. He was born May 12th, 1937 in New York, New York. And he just died not that long ago, June 22nd, 2008 in Santa Monica, California. He's an American comedian. He's known for 7 words you can never say on television. That actually led to a Supreme Court ruling, which gave the FCC the right to determine when to censor radio and TV broadcasts by a 5-4 vote, nonetheless. Carlin began working in the late 1950s as a wisecracking radio disc jockey and a low-key stand-up comedian. He was known for his whimsical routines such as Wonderful Wino and Hippy Dippy Weatherman. Beginning in the 1970s, he transformed himself into a provocative and incisive anti-establishment comedic icon. He was most closely identified with the monologue 7 words you can never say on television. And the last show that we do on Carlin, we're going to address those 7 words. Carlin was arrested in 1972 for performing the monologue on stage, and a judge dismissed the case. In 1973, New York City radio station WBAI-FM triggered a lawsuit by the FCC after it aired and recorded a version of the routine called Filthy Words. The landmark Carlin case was finally settled in 1978 with a 5-4 ruling, and the FCC has the ability to censor offensive comment in radio and TV broadcasts. George Carlin released more than 20 comedy albums and starred in 14 HBO specials. As an actor, he usually played a character inspired by his own comedic persona. He had the short-lived George Carlin Show in 1994. He was a narrator for a children's program, Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, where he was the Mr. Conductor. And let's see, in 2001, he received the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, and also in 2008. 2004, he received the cable television network Comedy Central ranking as number 2 on the greatest 100 stand-ups of all time, right behind Richard Pryor and 1 ahead of the legendary Lenny Bruce. I know he's one of your favorites. We will be doing a segment on Lenny Bruce down the road and Richard Pryor. Let's see. His final HBO special, It's Bad For You, aired just months before his death, and he won the Grammy Award for Best Comedic Album in 2009. His memoir, Last Words, was published later that year. Wow.
That's a really big body of work. I'm just sitting here wondering, man, I haven't done shit. compared to that, I'm just like everything you mentioned, I'm like, man, that's a lifetime of achievements. That really is.
I grew up with George Carlin.
See, he was a little before my time, but I mean, everybody knows who George Carlin is if you're into stand-up comedy at all. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, he paved the way for a lot of people to talk
Yes.
about a lot of topics.
Well, see, I grew up in the era of, Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder, George Carlin, Lucille Ball, Joan Rivers, Belushi. I mean, you had all of these old timers that we look at as old timers now. Red Fox. I mean, the montage just goes on and on.
You ever heard of Dick Gregory?
It sounds familiar. Again,
He
somebody I'll have to Google and
He
find
was
out.
a black comedian back in the 50s and 60s, I believe. And I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like I know it. Well, there's accomplishments off the top of my head, but he was a lot in later life, got into more controversial topics like politics and stuff like that. But yeah, people like him. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's just it. It's amazing at the controversy. Obviously, the name of the show, Comedy and Controversy. A lot of these comedians that we're going to be talking about are surrounded by controversy of some form or another, whether it be politics, religion, vulgarity, whatever the case may be. There's going to be some kind of controversy. All good comedians have controversy, and this is why I wanted to start with George Carlin. This is more me wanting to my favorite comedian, George Carlin. Okay, so I'm going to go to one of my favorite segments by George Carlin, and what's funny is I have a friend that he just did a space and all that, Stoic spaces and all that. Bryce, I really love him. He was talking about Marcus Aurelius, and this goes into Stoicism. And he talks about how a lot of the things that we talk about today are things that they talked about 1,000, 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about George Carlin is a lot of the things that he talked about are a lot of the things that we are talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
It's some of the same issues. So with that, I'm going to go to this segment. Let's see if I can get it to come up. Add to stream, and let's see if I can actually get it to play.
Education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long, when they tell you what to believe all day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged, and nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hardworking people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hardworking people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all, at all, at all. Yeah, you know? And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on. The fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Exactly. You know, oh, what the hell? What the hell is this? Okay, let me. Hey, commercial, skip ads. There we go.
Something else I don't understand, motivation.
There we go. Anyways, the reason why I brought that on as our first one, you and I both wrote a book. And we talk about this. Our government doesn't want critical thinkers. It's exactly as George said. He wants, our government wants people that will willfully just work for lower paying jobs. And again, the whole left versus the right, everybody is just, bam, at each other's throat. And we all think that we're fighting for the American dream. And again, like George said, you got to be asleep to believe in it.
Yeah, that's why I actually labeled my book the way I did, because it's like, it's been a nightmare for me for a long time. You know what I mean? And he's right. They just want you to continue to do mediocre work for little pay with no benefits or little benefits. You know what I mean? Just enough money to basically be poor. You know what I mean? There's nothing to look forward to. and you're seeing it these days. I mean, people are literally the leaving jobs that they don't see the point of anymore. You know what I mean? And it's becoming more and more obvious that the system that we have in place, the way things are run right now, that's how they want us. And he said this 16 years ago. And we saw this, with I'll get to that in a second. I don't even want to start talking about him right now. I was talking about Donald Trump with the media and everything like that. But him saying 16 years ago, all this stuff that is even more relevant today than it was 16 years ago. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what I like about comedians like George Carlin is the stuff they say. People think what he says makes sense and it's funny, but they don't understand that people like him see things differently than other people. That's why he is George Carlin. You know what I mean? That's why he was who he was. And he's able to portray it in a way that makes sense. But even like 16 years, watching that clip gave me goosebumps just to see how relevant it is in today's world. Yeah,
exactly. And I've been in numerous spaces on Twitter where we've actually talked about this.
Why I used to be on spaces on Twitter? God damn it!
Why is the educational system so shitty? Why is it so corrupt? Because they don't want people to be able to sit there, like you said, sit around the table and figure out how the system has screwed us. The thing of it is that more and more people are starting to get to this point. We're starting to realize it's not about left and right politics, because we're starting to see past that. Because the hypocrisy. Yeah, because the hypocrisy is coming full scale. I mean, we are seeing how bad the left and right. If you don't think that Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, McConnell, McCarthy, if you don't think they all sit down and have lunch together, you're mistaken. Okay? If you think that they absolutely hate each other because some are on the left and some are on the right, you have fallen prey to what George Carlin just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Because corporations have them in their pocket. They're not voting on things for us. They're voting on things for corporations.
Mm-hmm.
And hello, Adam. I wanted to say hello to Adam. He hit us up in the comments there.
Nice.
So
let me go ahead and get to that.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Jump on in.
I was going to say when he said about the education, that's why I really was glad you chose that topic. Is see, I have a daughter that was born deaf, and she's almost 20 now. So things have come a long way in the disabled community as far as resources, things they can, outreach programs, anything they need really now. They still have to fight for it a lot of times, unfortunately, but it's a lot more accessible than it used to be 20 years ago. I mean, I cannot believe how much every year you would read about budget cuts within the education system. And these are supposed to be our future leaders. And like George Carlin said, they don't want free thinkers. They want subordinates. They want, people that are subjugated to think a certain way. They don't want people that are out there, asking questions that shouldn't be asked like I do. And that was one of the reasons I wrote the book, is because I got so frustrated that I felt like there's no focus on the people anymore. You know what I mean? And it's from experience growing up, trying to raise a daughter, because, nobody in my family's deaf. Nobody in my ex-wife's family's deaf. So we had to learn sign language and all that stuff too. And, fighting for her just to get basic stuff. There was a couple of years, we had a hard time just getting a sign language interpreter. Just that, for them to pay for a sign language interpreter, just one person. That's it. That's all we asked, one person to go along with her while she's in the school. We had to fight for that. This was 14 years ago now, but that's not a long time ago. And I'm glad to see things are coming along, but I still don't think they're coming along nearly as fast as they need to.
Yeah. All right. We have Goose Baby that asked what are we talking about? And I responded with George Carlin. And Goose Baby asks, what's up with the flag?
The people freak out about the upside down flag. It's kind of like when I wrote the book, I needed something to kind of symbolize what I felt America was going through as a people. And I forget what movie I was watching, and they were talking about the flag being hung upside down. It was a Robert Redford movie. It was about somebody probably knows the name of it. I can't think of it off the top of my head. And was hanging the flag upside down means, in the old days, when you hang the flag upside down, if a position was being overrun, it meant you were in dire distress, like you need help right away. And that's how I felt. The upside down flag kind of embraced what most of America is going through right now. We are in dire distress. So that's the only reason I did that.
Exactly. And again, this goes back to what Carlin was saying. A lot of people, and again, this isn't about left or right. Anyone that's making it about left or right, you fall on prey to exactly what George Carlin was talking about. Okay. When we look at what's going on in this country and the intentional division, this is what Carlin was talking about. Mm-hmm. And we can't sit here and utilize critical thinking and break things down and comprehend how and why we're being divided, comprehend what our government is doing and why the corporations benefit from it and the people are receiving nothing. It's just like George said, they don't give a fuck about you. Okay. Mm-hmm. They own us, they control us, and they do whatever in the hell they want. And the corporations, they own the politicians, they send in the lobbyists, and they do all of this, So, yeah. A lot of topics that George Carlin would hit on, especially like the political aspects. When you looked at like his FCC segment, that was another good one. I had to bring that one up real quick. But yeah, in fact, while I do that, I'll let you take on and let's see if I can bring up another Carlin segment. I'm having troubles with some of this, but we'll get it up there.
Hey, there we go. Adam N chimed in there for me. I was trying to be a part of football.
I don't know how you feel about it, but I am getting pretty sick and tired of these fucking church people. I had it with these fucking church people, all of them. You know what I say we ought to do with these churches? Tax them. Tax these motherfuckers. If they're so interested in politics and government policy and public policy, let them pay their admission price like everybody else. Tax them. Hey, the Catholic Church alone could wipe out the federal budget deficit if all you did was tax them on their real estate holdings.
Here's another slogan. Here's another slogan.
Again, another aspect of George Carlin and all that. You know, he takes part of the hello, Eileen, I see you there. He takes a little bit of things that are going on, and again, a lot of the controversy. There's a lot of people that think the churches should be taxed, you know, and the money that would bring in. And again, obviously, he was criticized about, you know, from the churches and stuff like that, and a lot of people on the right, because again, he's picking on the churches. Well, when you look at what the influence that churches have, and yet why don't they have to pay taxes? You know, so it's like, you know, they should have to pay taxes.
Absolutely.
Adam came up with a response here: American flag flying upside down, which is a signal for distress. Dictionary or tossed around a baseball or a football. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, it was a good movie. I can't now. It's gonna bother me until I look it up. It's gonna bother the shit out of me.
Yeah, no, but George Carlin, he attacked a lot of things. I really,
I mean, religion. What year was that segment from? Does it show?
I think that was from 1988.
See, no, and that you didn't really talk like that about church back then. You know what I mean? You got to put things in perspective. Back then, you know what I mean? The internet wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? There wasn't as much information available. And I think today you see that a lot of people are questioning religion. You know what I mean? They're trying to ask, why should we blindly follow in this when, and you know me, like the topic of religion, I could talk about it or not talk about it because I'm a deist. So I think religion is a touchy tough, especially you see it now in politics. Like people are trying to say stuff like, "Oh, Trump is sent by God," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?"
The movie was The Last Castle.
But that's the movie. Thank you so much, because that was eating at me. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a good movie. But that's where I actually originally saw the concept of the upside down flag. I had never heard of it before. I was looking more into it, and that's what I meant. So yeah. But religion and politics today, especially, is just there's got to be a separation. I mean, I say believe in whatever you want to believe in, whatever makes you feel better. But you know, I mean, there's got to be a point where, especially when you're talking about governing groups of people. You know what I mean? You can't. There's got to be a separation there at some point.
Yeah,
or at least I think so. I mean, other people obviously feel differently about it, but
yeah.
Anytime he seems to talk about religion or question religion, though, it seems like it always pisses everybody off. You know what I mean? If you ask any questions about, like, even the Bible, they're like, oh, you know what I mean? They get so offended, and I'm just asking them why do you believe that?
Right. Well,
I'm open to listening.
Yeah,
but nobody wants to explain.
And he does go at religion pretty hard on a lot of times.
He does. He really does.
Him and like Bill Maher's another one that goes after religion pretty hard. You know, but
there's he's a British comedian, and see, I should have. I didn't know we were going to bring stuff like this up. But he talks about religion. Well, he's an atheist, so he talks about religion real hard. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh,
So comedians, they are allowed to talk about things that we on the street are just not allowed to talk about. You know what I mean? They are.
well,
They're allowed.
we're
They're able to be
allowed to talk about it sometimes, though.
Well, not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not something we would bring up in a normal everyday conversation, but maybe it's something you maybe, if, like, they could have a good point that you maybe thought about something in the past, like, oh, you know what? Maybe, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of the.
And they make it funny, though. They make it so where we can talk about it. And I think comedians also open up. Like, if you went, I've seen comedy shows in the past, and every time after a comedy show, there's always a discussion about the show. You know what I mean? And I think it opens up areas of conversation that maybe you wouldn't normally be able to have either. You know what I mean?
Oh,
in a good way, not in a negative way, in a positive way.
Definitely. You see, back when I was growing up and all that, my dad taught me the 3 things you never talk about: the weather, religion, and politics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like those are taboo conversations, because once you talk about it, you're going to bring out the sides of people that you don't want to see.
Especially recently. Oh my God.
Yeah. And now it's like, when I was growing up, you could talk about, you could have a conversation about politics. You could have a conversation about religion. You could have a conversation about the weather, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you would end up either agreeing to disagree and move on, or, you know, there was never bad karma between the two of you afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
now I would agree up until Donald Trump came around. And the only reason I say that is, is this an okay topic to talk about, or am I getting off topic here?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I met a woman once. I was getting my car serviced. This is maybe like, I think it was right around the whole re-election campaign and everything like that. And I had this beautiful connection with this person. We had a conversation for an hour and a half nonstop. And she was asking me about my book and stuff like that. And we started talking about it. And I was bringing up the fact that we need to be able to openly communicate about stuff. And I didn't even say anything about Donald Trump. All I said was Trump. And she got defensive immediately. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I'm just trying. I'm like, you're actually proving my point. Like, if you're so defensive about something, like, is it really worth holding on to all that? Like, I feel like people are holding on to all this anger over stuff that they don't need to hold on to anymore.
Yeah. I kind of noticed the beginnings of it back during the Bush administration, Bush Jr. After 9/11 and all that, when you would start talking politics, that's where I started to truly start to see, if you were to engage in any kind of conversation about anything, political party became an issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And back then I was a liberal. Okay. I was a registered Democrat. And if I tried to have a conversation with somebody that was on the right, it would blow up, you know. And it's just like, whoa, wait a minute, what the hell is all of this about? You know, can't we talk about these things and you know, kind of present, you know, that whole adversarial aspect of what our government is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. You know, agree that there's a common problem, even though we might come from different aspects with a solution. Mm-hmm. And from that era all the way up to where we're at now, we can't even agree that there's an issue. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And that's where the left and the right have become so divided. If the left says this is an issue, the right says, no, that's not an issue. It's not a problem. If the right says this is an issue, the left goes, no, it's not an issue. This isn't a problem. And they don't want to address it. So let's see. We got
go ahead.
We got Bryce here. Paul, it's hard to separate some religious concepts and the state, especially in the West, because many of our ideas of right and wrong and subsequent laws derive from Judaism and Christianity. Very good point. Very Absolutely. Good point. You know, but we're at this point where we can't even agree that something is a problem, where when you go back 30 years, at least we had the belief that our government would look at an issue and the left and the right would try to come together and, come up with a way to get there, and a little give and take. Here we go. We're going to write this law. We're going to pass it. And this is what we're going to address with it. And we can't even get that done anymore.
I mean, George Carlin said it. He said, well, I mean, we're programmed to be divided. We're programmed to hate each other.
Yeah.
Whether we realize it or not. You know what I mean? People think you don't get influenced. You get influenced all day long. Not only do you get influenced, you get influenced on an epic level now because we have the internet, and you can, I mean, hell, I can look through 6-7 different apps in 30 seconds now. I mean, you get influenced all the time now, and it's gotten to the point where it's frustrating.
Yes. It is, and I'll have to next week when we talk about George Carlin some more and all that, I'll bring up more clips. I'll try to have a better library set up so that we can go through different segments and stuff like that. And I'll try to do it more to where we can actually do a segment. Again, this is our first episode. We're just kind of breaking in with this. I'll try to get it set up to where we can have bits and pieces and we can discuss it as it goes along.
That works.
Huh?
That works. That works. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's he has so much material. So I was trying to catch up on some George Carlin. I did not realize he had 14 HBO specials. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I can't watch all that right now. I can't remember all that. You know what I mean? My brain is,
Yes.
But no, he's done so much work. So yeah, if you absolutely pick out a few topics and we can go. But I like he touches on stuff. It's still relevant, but like you said, when it's still relevant 20 years later, how far have we progressed as a society, really?
Right. Well, and you got to remember that clip from 2005. He said 30 years before, and I know that he did that segment back in the 90s. So he's actually talking about the 50s and the 60s. Okay. And it's like Bryce, who just came up, he just had that Stoic show that I mentioned earlier and all that. Bryce talks about Marcus Aurelius 1,000, 2,000 years ago, and how we had all those problems then, and nothing's changed today. We still talk about it today. And here we're talking about what George Carlin was telling everybody 15, 20 years ago about what was going on 30 years prior, and it's still relevant today.
It is. And like I said, it actually makes me kind of sad that we're still talking about the same things. You know what I mean? We're still talking about equality and all this stuff that we should have already settled. I mean, it's frustrating, but it feels like we're being pulled that way almost anymore. You know what I mean? It's become so divisive anymore that people are being forced into a corner to have to pick a side. You know what I mean? There's so much bullshit, and I think fear is the cause of a lot of bad decisions. And I think there's people that are online that get paid extremely good money to cause fear, or why you can call it fear. It's actually causing uncertainty. They want to cause uncertainty. Uncertainty obviously then creates fear, and these people get paid to do that. You know what I mean? And I don't see a lot of people getting paid to pull people back together. So it's kind of that's, yeah. So
right now, Bryce
became my purpose with my whole project.
Bryce brings up a point here. Taxing the church isn't a terrible idea, but also note that there are many free services and goods the churches and provide communities that the state doesn't provide or doesn't provide enough of. And a very excellent point on that. I just wish the churches would do more. And granted, there are a few churches out there that do a shitload for their community.
There is.
But there's also a lot of churches that don't do shit for their communities.
Some churches can't. You know what I mean? I mean, there are churches out there that are poor churches that they just can't do anything.
Well,
but there are a lot of churches out there that are, they're not, At some point, I think there becomes a point where it becomes more about profit than people.
Yeah.
And then when you get to that point, you're no longer a religion, as far as I'm concerned. You're more of a corporation than anything. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And again, you know, I'm not going to name any churches because I mean, I know there's churches that in the past have helped me. And there's some very good churches out there that help a lot of people. And
absolutely. I mean, that was one of my biggest journeys, was trying to figure out what I believed in life. You know what I mean?
Right.
And church came into play. I met some really good people. Actually, I was baptized in I don't know how I ended up there, but I actually ended up in a church in some awful part of Pittsburgh. And it was one of the best places I ever experienced. I became a member, and it was a beautiful place, you know what I mean? But it ended up being not for me, you know what I mean? But like I said before, people believe, it's not about, you can believe in whatever you want to believe in, but it doesn't mean we have to like just impose it on other people. And I think people would maybe be open to church. I don't see church, like you said, churches really don't reach outside of church communities anymore. They do for their people or people that, you know, belong to congregations or other churches. They don't really intermingle with, I don't see any church functions intermingling in any, I mean, I live in a small city, but we have a lot of events in town, and I don't know if maybe they don't want to anymore because of all the ruckus and everything with it. You know what I mean? But I can see how they might want to stay in the background a little bit, but at the same time, maybe now's the time for them to get involved in stuff.
Right. Bryce says the mega churches are the problem. Yes.
I'm not going to name any, but yeah, there's a couple out there that are ridiculous.
Yes.
They're literal cash machines. It's unreal. Some of these, oh my God. And they're legal, and they're perfectly legal.
I know. Now I haven't been to any churches of late. I would say probably in the last few decades, I probably really haven't associated myself with any churches on any level. Prior to that, I've been, right now I'm an atheist. I used to be I've been a Presbyterian, I've been a Pentecostal, I've been a Baptist, a Lutheran.
Yes, I'm a deist, so
I've been a Jehovah's Witness, I've been a Mormon. I've gone through all of the religions, looking and searching for what I was trying to find God, you know. And then I tried Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism. I've gone through lots of different philosophies and stuff like that. And this is where I'm at with it. And
it's good that we can talk about it, though. You know what I mean? We need to be able to openly talk about not just church, not just religion, racism, you know, gender issues that are going on right now. Like, things have gotten so to the point where people are almost scared to have conversations because you don't know if you say a single word that they take out of context and make it offensive and ruin the whole conversation. Like, people are afraid to talk to one another anymore. And it's not just religion. It's everything now. It's everything. Everything is taboo to talk about. And I love talking to people because I like to make people laugh. I'm a goofball. You know what I mean? That's what I do. I try and bring people together. And I think that's what we need right now in comedy and being controversial, talking about stuff that we need to talk about. You know what I mean? That's part of the progress we need to have as a country. I think we need to heal as a people. And I think openly talking about things in a non-offensive way is possible. Right. I think it very much is.
But here's the thing. No matter what you talk about, okay, and I don't care what it is. I mean, it can be the simplest of things and all that. I like I drink my coffee black. And I can guarantee you that there's going to be somebody out there and all that. Coffee isn't meant to be drunk black. You're supposed to put cream in it. There's no other way to drink it. And if you don't drink it with cream, you're a blah, blah, blah. There's always going to be somebody out there that.
Oh, my God. I got so much grief once. I said I posted, I think coffee tastes like shit, and I can't believe people pay $6 for something that tastes like shit. You know how much grief I got for posting that? I'm like, relax. It was just a comment. Calm down, everybody. Calm down.
Right. Well,
you take the stress level down a bit.
Exactly. And if you think coffee tastes like shit, then obviously for you, it tastes like shit. Me, I love the taste of coffee.
Right. Yeah, but it doesn't mean we have to argue about it. That's silly.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's just
better than you. It doesn't make you better than me. And I think this is the biggest problem that we have in this country. Okay. And this is what George Carlin was trying to get out when that first segment that we watched. Okay. The critical thinking aspect. We don't have critical thinkers anymore. And people are so caught up in this superiority complex that I am better than you because.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay. And until we can get rid of that ego aspect of ourselves and realize that, yeah, there's some things that you're going to be better at than myself. There's going to be things that I'm better at than you.
Right.
Just because I'm better at something doesn't make me superior to you.
Right. Well, you and me are a perfect example. We met via a person on Twitter, and you and me are totally different people. Never knew each other before. We're on totally different coasts. But, you know, you have a completely different background than mine. You know what I mean? You've achieved a lot of stuff. I've been a fuck up most of my life. Yeah. But we have so much in common as far as what's up in here. And I think people are forgetting. They're not even getting to that point. You know what I mean? You and me are now good. I would say good friends. I love talking to you and I love coming on your show and stuff like that. And you know, I mean, just because we're different people doesn't mean we can't get along if we put our stupid, petty beliefs and stuff. Just that's supposed to be in here. Beliefs are supposed to be what you believe. That's in here. You're not supposed to take your beliefs and just diarrhea them out over the world and affect everybody around you at the same time. You know what I mean?
Right. I know.
Whatever makes you happy can't make somebody miserable at the same time. It kind of counteracts itself. You understand what I mean?
Exactly. And again, I'm going to take it back to the superiority aspect. When you think that something that you have or that you believe in or that you trust in or you have knowledge of makes you superior to the person sitting next to you, that's where your mistake is. Okay. To acknowledge that somebody might have a superior knowledge in something is one
absolutely
thing. But to then turn around and say, I am superior because of that knowledge or that experience is what the problem is. Where let's take my belief as an atheist versus somebody that believes in let's whether it's Christianity, whether it's you believe in the Bible, you believe in the Quran, you believe in Buddhism, Hinduism, it doesn't matter. Okay. Whatever that religion or philosophy is, I am not better than you because I see beyond what I consider to be the ignorance of all of it. You are not better than me because you believe that I'm going to hell because I don't have a God in my life.
Right.
All right. That doesn't make you better, and my belief doesn't make me better.
And another thing is, like, why does it even have to be an issue, though? You know what I mean? Like, why does this stuff have to, like, when you meet a new person for the first time, you guys really get along, and then you start getting to know them, you find out they believe in different things than you. Why does that have to affect your relationship with them? So
exactly.
It's not like if I hang out, like if I was, I'm not a Christian, but if I was, it's not like if I hang out with you, like your atheism doesn't magically rub off on me and I'm not going to go home and all of a sudden not read the Bible anymore. That's not how it works. You know what I mean? It's your belief. Like if you believe it, then believe it. It doesn't mean somebody can just, if somebody can easily sway you, then you don't truly believe in something.
Right.
And if you're that insecure about what you believe in, maybe that's why people are so defensive about it. Maybe they're just worried they're going to all of a sudden realize that I don't believe this anymore. I don't know.
Exactly. My wife and I had 23 wonderful years together, and she drank coffee with cream in it. Okay. I mean, this is how idiotic I see the belief systems of today. There's people that believe if you are a Republican or you are a Democrat, you can't be my friend.
Right.
That would be like saying, because you drink cream in your coffee, we can't be together. That
Makes
no
no sense. It's like
Yeah.
we talked before on a show before about labels. And that's it's another thing that happens. Like you believe cream versus no cream. You know what I mean? And then you put yourself into that group, and then all of a sudden you hate this other group for no reason. It doesn't make sense anymore.
Right. Bottom line comes down is if what you believe in, what you do, how you live your life, it all comes back to the golden rule. Okay? It all comes back to the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Treat others as you want them to treat you. However you want to break the golden rule down, or the silver rule, or by whatever name you want to call it. Okay?
I mean, it's a good way to live. That's actually how I live these days, because I believe what you do in this life determines the next. You know what I mean? I don't believe that you go and do something for a few minutes a week and you're cool.
Right. So I bring this up because here comes the aspect of it. Do you want somebody to harm you, whether it be physically, mentally, with words, or whatever the case is?
Right.
Do you want somebody to harm you?
And words are permanent. People don't believe, they don't know how powerful their words can be or are. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Well, I mean, do you want somebody to hurt you in any of those ways?
No, God, no. Oh, I thought you were asking. All right. No,
Yeah.
no.
Exactly.
Of course not.
So why would you
Do the
harm
same
somebody
thing.
else with those things?
Sounds logical to me, right?
If you're a good person, you wouldn't.
Right.
When you do, and you're okay with it, you're no longer a good person.
Mm-hmm. And I've been there in life where I've had to do bad things, and I was in a dark place. You know what I mean? And I've done bad things. I was a bad person, but it doesn't mean you have to. You know what I mean? I was lucky and came out a good person, but it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this goes back to what you're looking at with what George Carlin said in that first segment that we played, where the government doesn't give a fuck about us. Corporations don't give a fuck about us. Okay? They do things that harm us.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we still have systemic discrimination, systemic racism, systemic bigotry, systemic xenophobia, systemic ageism, systemic poverty, systemic recidivism, systemic homelessness? Why do we have all these systemic issues? Because there's money to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Again, they don't care about us.
They never have. And then he brought up a good point. Why do we keep electing these rich assholes?
Right. They don't care what hurts us.
You mean to tell me we're going to put a billionaire that's never cared about a person in his entire life, and you think he's going to care about you? That is insanity right there. That is crazy. And then, like I said before, I believe that it's time with the technology and the communication that we have, we're at a point where we don't need the government to bring us together anymore. We can do it ourselves. We can start making some choices for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have communities now that we can bring.
And if we start coming together, eventually, the government will no longer have power over us.
Right.
Okay. Eventually. Because right now the government has ultimate power.
The
only way we take power from the government is that people like us need to start running for office. We need critical thinkers that become part of government and absolutely refuse to take lobbyist money, absolutely refuse to vote for things that are going to hurt people and say why it's going to hurt people.
You're giving me chills right now because I said the exact same thing. There has to be a way to get somebody that has no part of any special interest groups, not tied to any political parties, anything. Like somebody has to be out there. And you know what? I used to joke around, like, because my run-ins in the past, I used to joke around and say, hey, I'll never be able to run for office. But after these last few years, there's a shot I might be able to get in somewhere. I mean, I've seen some crazy shit on TV these days and online. I mean, it's unbelievable what we're putting in office, and they're the ones that are supposed to help us. You know what I mean? And they're too busy fighting with themselves. How are they going to ever help us?
Yep. George Carlin.
But there has to come a point, like rich, poor, the rich could do, the super rich could do so much more.
Oh, definitely.
So much more. Oh my God, they could do so much more for the people. I mean, and that's another thing I talk about unity a lot. I mean, it's not just when people think unity, they usually think gender or race, but it's not just that. It's you know, upper class, middle class, lower class. We got to start, you know, I mean, half the country makes what, 30 grand a year or less?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. That's 175 million people plus make less than 30 grand. Well, that's half the working population makes 30 grand a year, less a year. You know what I mean? So, but those are people that have families and bills and rent and 30 grand a year. Just, I mean, how do you survive on that? And I'm a single dad. I've been through it. You know what I mean? Poverty is part of my life. It has been part of my story. You know what I mean? I don't do what I do because I get paid. I do what I do just because it's necessary. You know, people like us need to be talking. People like, we need to have open forums where people can get together and talk about stuff openly without going off the chains at each other. It's just,
yeah.
I feel like everybody's so hypersensitive about everything right now. Not even oversensitive, like hypersensitive.
Yep. All right. I got a George Carlin clip from 1990. Okay, let me get that up. Let's see if it works. You hear it?
No.
You can't hear that?
No, I can't hear it.
I don't know what the disconnect is on this. It's really making me mad. Okay.
Oh, it's too bad. I couldn't play a TikTok clip I sent you.
All right, hold on a second. I'm just gonna have to do it this way.
I'm actually enjoying. I shouldn't be mad at you for getting me on TikTok, but I'm not. I'm digging it. I'm digging it like crazy, actually. I was just thinking about that clip I sent you. That's how we first started talking about George Carlin.
We're a couple of weeks overdue.
There we go.
Drop high explosives on helpless civilians.
Here we go.
People who have no argument with us whatsoever. I think we ought to be out there doing what we do best, gang, making big holes in other people's countries. I hate to be repetitious, but God, we are a warlike lot, you know? We can't stand not to be fucking with somebody. We couldn't wait for that Cold War to be over, could we? Just couldn't wait for that Cold War to be over so we could go and play with our toys in the sand. Go play with our toys in the sand. And when we're not invading some sovereign nation or setting it on fire from the air, which is more fun, then we're usually declaring war on something here at home. Do you ever notice that? We love to do that, don't we? We love to declare war on things here in America. Anything we don't like about ourselves, we have to declare war on it. Don't do anything about it. We just declare war on it. We got a war. It's the only metaphor we have in our public discourse for solving a problem. It's called declaring a war. We got a war on poverty, the war on crime, war on litter, the war on cancer, the war on drugs. But you ever notice there's no war on homelessness, is there? Nah, no war on homelessness. You know why? There's no money in that problem. There's no money in that problem. Nobody stands. It's true. Nobody stands to get rich off of that problem. You could find a solution to homelessness where the corporate swine and the politicians could steal a couple $1 million each. You'd see the streets of America begin to clear up pretty goddamn quick. I'll guarantee you that. I will guarantee you that. Now, so, I got an idea for homeless. You know what they ought to do? You know what they ought to do? Give the homeless their own magazine. Give them their own magazine. It would make them feel better, for one thing. That's a sure sign of making it in this country. Every group in this country that makes it and arrives at a certain level has its own magazine. You have Working Mother magazine, Black Entrepreneur magazine, Hispanic Business magazine. In fact, any activity engaged in by more than 4 people in this country has got a fucking magazine devoted to it. Skydiving, mountain climbing, snowmobiling, backpacking, bungee jumping, duck hunting, shooting someone in the asshole with a dart gun, jerking off. They probably have a magazine for that. I'm sure they have. I know they have a magazine. Walking. There's actually a fucking magazine called Walking. Look, Dan, the new Walking is out. Here's a good article, putting one foot in front of the other. Give them their own magazine. Give them. Give the homeless their own magazine. You know what you call it? Better Crates and Cartons. Then when they get finished reading it, they can use it to line their clothing. That's a good, sound business solution. That's the kind of answer you get from a conservative American businessman. Yeah, let them read it. When they get finished reading, they can use it to plug up the holes in them piano crates they all seem to like to live in. A good, sound, practical, conservative American business solution. I'll tell you what they ought to do about homelessness. First thing, change the name of it. Change the name of the condition. It's not homelessness, it's houselessness. It's houses these people need. A home is an abstract idea. A home is a setting. It's a state of mind. These people need houses, physical, tangible structures. But where are you going to put them? Where are you going to build them? Nobody wants you to build low-cost housing near their house. People don't want it near them. We got something in this country, you've heard of it, called NIMBY, N-I-M-B-Y. Not in my backyard. People don't want any kind of social help located anywhere near them. You try to open up a halfway house, try to open up a rehab center for drugs or alcohol, try to build a little home for some retarded people who want to work their way into the community. People say, not in my backyard. People don't want anything near them, especially if it might help somebody else. Part of the great American spirit of generosity we're always told about. Big, generous American nation. Ask an Indian about that. Ask an Indian how generous this country is, if you can find one. You got to locate the Indian first. We've made him just a little difficult to find. Or if you need current data, select the black family at random and ask them how generous this country has been. People don't want anything near them, even if it's something they believe in, something they think society needs, like prisons. Everybody wants that, right? Everybody wants more prisons. That's the new answer to all of our problems. Lock a lot of motherfuckers up. Everybody wants more prisons. They say, build more prisons! But not here. But why not? What's wrong? What's the problem? What's wrong with having a prison in your neighborhood? It would seem to me like it would make it a pretty crime-free area, don't you think? You think a lot of crackheads and muggers and pimps and hookers are going to hang around in front of a fucking prison? Bullshit, they ain't coming anywhere near it. What's wrong with these people? All the criminals are locked up behind the walls, and if a couple of them do break out, what do you think they're going to do? Hang around? Check real estate trends? Bullshit. They're fucking gone. That's the whole idea of breaking out of prison, is to get the fuck as far away as you possibly can. Not in my backyard. People don't want anything near them. Except military bases. They don't mind that, do they? No, they like that. Give them an army base. Makes them happy. Why? Jobs. Jobs. Self-interest. Even if the base is loaded with nuclear weapons, they don't give a fuck. They say, well, I'll take a little radiation if I can get a job. Working people have been fucked over so long in this country, those are the kind of decisions they're left to make. I got just a place for low-cost housing. I have solved this problem. I know where we can build housing for the homeless. Golf courses. Perfect. Golf courses. Just what we need. Plenty of good land in nice neighborhoods, land that is currently being wasted on a meaningless, mindless activity. engaged in primarily by white, well-to-do male businessmen who use the game to get together to make deals to carve this country up a little finer among themselves. I am getting tired.
Wow.
Really tired.
Again, you
Yeah,
gotta
he's
love
got-
George Carlin. 1990.
That's incredible.
Okay.
That was incredible.
1990. And here we are today talking about the same issues.
Exactly.
40 years later, we're still talking about it.
Have we come? How far have we come then? Really?
We haven't. We're going backwards.
I feel it's people are pulling us backwards.
Yeah, we're going backwards. We're not going forwards. We're going backwards.
But I think right now is a good time for us to start moving forward. I really do.
Oh, definitely.
I think we have an opportunity.
Definitely. We have to get rid of this two-party system that we have. We have to get rid of the mindset of the two-party system, and we have to start to grow. We need to get people in office that want to do better, actually do better for the people of this country, not corporations.
It can't be profit over people anymore.
Exactly.
It's got to be about the people. It's got to be. I mean, that's what the whole point is, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I talk about this in my book. Some of the episodes that I had prior to switching from the red herring effect to In the Moment was on homelessness and all that. You know, again, the things that we need to do to make things better. Yes, we need. If there was a profit to be made in solving
That's what I want to talk about.
issue, profit, it would have been already solved. And that's just if they can't make a profit, they don't want to fix it. So
maybe it's because I am poor. I don't understand the concept of hoarding that kind of money. When you could change lives, you could change lives. You could go down to a Honda store, buy 100 Hondas, and literally walk around and just giving to people that never will own a new car and the rest. You know what I mean? Like there are so many problems that the rich could solve themselves, but they wait. They think the government. They don't think. They expect the government to do it, so they don't have to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
they are just. It just feels like. Yeah.
One of the concepts I came up with was a new taxation system, which would tax everybody uniformly.
Okay? Yeah, you want to talk about unfair taxes?
Yeah. So if we would do this taxation system that I have, we would bring in $20 to $30 trillion a year, and we could solve the homelessness problem. We could end poverty. All of these different things we could fix and take care of. I wrote 3 amendments related to equal rights, cost of living, and the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. And again, all of these issues, they can be solved. And the thing of it is that I didn't write anything new. Okay. Right. All of these things have been talked about and addressed. George Carlin, he just talked about homelessness. There is a way to solve this issue.
But nobody's making any money on it. That's the problem. It costs money to solve the problem, and people don't want to give up their money as if they somehow are. It's a shame. It really is. There's a lot of, and you know, and like I said before about the labels, you and me talked about weaponizing labels before. When you as soon as you say homeless, people think drug addict, drunk, you know what I mean? Deadbeat, you know, can't get a job. I mean, you know what I mean? There's circumstances that you have no clue.
As someone who's been homeless,
I've been there too. So yeah.
Twice in my life. And the only reason I was able to come out of it is because I had a job, a job. Yeah. And without that job, I wouldn't have been able to recover from it because there are laws that prevent you from getting a job if you're homeless. And
you have to have a permanent address.
Address. Right. And you can't use a shelter. You can't use a weekly motel or anything like that. You have to have an address. You can't get an address if you don't have an income.
Right. And who wants to tell their soon to be employer that they're homeless? And then, you know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It just, like you said, though, the problem is solvable. It is.
Yes.
It really is. Okay.
Yes.
It's got to start being about the people again.
I know.
It really does.
See, and George Carlin addressed that. And next week, we'll get into more on George Carlin. I plan on George Carlin being a 2 to 3 week segment. And then we'll probably go on to, I don't know. I was thinking maybe Richard Pryor. I think that'd be a good one to go into.
That's a good one. Yeah. Because I like his story.
Yep. So, I guess next week we will cover more on this, but
okay.
George Carlin, he's a big loss. He's a big loss. There's not many people that when they pass that are famous that I actually shed a tear for. And when George Carlin died, a tear came to my eye. So anyway, thank you again, Jeremy.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, definitely. And we will be back on next week, everybody. This is Comedy and Controversy. Remember, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Thank you.